No prelude, just truth. There are myths men sell women in relationships. Myths that keep you questioning your worth, your needs, and your boundaries. They're disguised as logic, real talk, or just the way things are. But the truth is, they're nothing more than convenient excuses to keep you comfortable, obedient, and afraid to ask for more. Men aren't emotional. They don't talk about feelings. We've heard it 1,000 times, right? Men are just wired differently, they say. It's like some universal rule that men keep their emotions locked up in a box somewhere deep inside them, and you'd better never even try to open that box. But let's pause for a second. What does this myth really mean for the women in these relationships? For starters, it places all the emotional labor on you. If he won't talk about his feelings, guess who has to figure out what's wrong when he's distant, cold, or just not present? That's right, you. You become the emotional detective, constantly decoding silence and reading between the lines. Every time he pulls away, you're left wondering, what did I miss? It's exhausting. You're not just carrying the weight of your own emotions, you're carrying his too. The pressure to guess what's wrong, to make things better when he's not sharing, and to keep it all together while he's just not emotional. It takes a toll. And let's not forget the way society backs this up. From an early age, women are told that they are the nurturers, the ones who have to be emotionally available, while men are excused from vulnerability. They get to stay emotionally unavailable. While we're expected to pick up the slack, they are conditioned to think that this is just the way things are. Men are like that, so we have to deal with it. But does it ever cross your mind that this dynamic isn't fair? What's really going on is that women end up carrying not just their own emotional burdens, but their partners as well. And it's time to stop pretending that this is normal. You deserve a partner who meets you in emotional honesty, not one who leaves you carrying everything in silence. So next time you hear the myth about men not needing to talk about feelings, remember, it's not just him who's affected, it's you too, and you don't have to bear that alone. Romantic stuff is for women. Men don't like all that. This one might seem innocent on the surface, but it's one of the most damaging myths perpetuated in relationships. The idea that men don't need romance, that they're somehow above the candles, the thoughtful gestures, the handwritten notes, not only is a lie, it hurts both men and women. As women, we're told that if we want romantic gestures, if we want to feel cherished, we're being too emotional, high maintenance, or worse, needy. We're conditioned to believe that romance is something we should want, but it's a desire that should be kept in check. We start second-guessing ourselves when our partner doesn't respond in the ways we secretly crave, when the flowers don't come, when the compliments aren't there, when we get brushed off for wanting that extra bit of affection. We're made to feel like we're asking for too much. But what this myth really does is convince us that our needs for love, tenderness, and emotional connection are somehow less important, less valid than their need for space or freedom. Women end up feeling like they're the only ones carrying the emotional weight of the relationship, like it's their job to keep things romantic, to keep things alive, while their partner remains distant or disengaged. This myth keeps women in a cycle of emotional self-doubt, constantly questioning if they're being too much or too needy, just for wanting a little extra affection. It makes us think that if we just let go of these desires, if we just accepted that romance is for women and not men, we'd be easier to love. But the truth is, we are worthy of love and affection just as much as anyone else, and the desire for romance isn't something we should feel guilty about. When women are made to believe that their emotional needs are excessive, that asking for a little romance is too much, it creates an emotional void. You end up feeling unseen, unheard, and undervalued in a relationship that should be giving you the exact opposite. You don't have to diminish your needs to make your partner comfortable. Romance isn't about playing a part or following gendered expectations. It's about connection, vulnerability, and love. So, let's ditch the myth that romance is just for women and acknowledge that both partners deserve it. When we stop shrinking our desires for love and affection, we allow ourselves to experience the depth of connection that we truly deserve. I work hard, so I deserve peace. Don't bring me drama. This one hits hard, doesn't it? The classic, I work hard, so I deserve peace. Don't bring me drama. It's an excuse that can feel like a punch to the gut, especially when you've been carrying your own emotional weight, running a household and managing everything from the kids' schedules to the grocery list. It's easy to see how this myth feeds into a power imbalance, leaving women with even more responsibility, while also being told their emotional needs are a burden. Here's the thing, women have been conditioned to think that their emotional expression is synonymous with drama, while men's stress and struggles are framed as something they deserve space and peace for. Men deserve quiet, while women are expected to manage the chaos of daily life, emotionally and physically. But what about the women? Think about it. How often do you hear your feelings dismissed as drama? How often are your needs and emotions invalidated because your partner feels like they're entitled to peace, even if it comes at the expense of your own emotional well-being? This myth paints the entire situation as a you versus me dynamic, implying that if a woman expresses anything less than perfect calm, she's the source of the problem. What this myth fails to acknowledge is the fact that peace in a relationship is a shared responsibility. Peace isn't about one person getting their needs met and the other one sacrificing everything to keep things quiet. It's about mutual understanding, respect, and, most importantly, connection. When men say they deserve peace, it's often a way to shut down any kind of emotional conversation that doesn't align with their idea of comfort. But it doesn't take into account the exhaustion women feel from holding everything together emotionally, physically, and mentally. Women are expected to keep the peace, keep it all running smoothly, and do so without asking for anything in return. And let's not ignore the way this myth encourages men to turn a blind eye to the emotional load women carry. It says, I've had a long day, I deserve to unwind. And sure, everyone deserves a break, but it comes at a price. Women are expected to shoulder the emotional work while their partner gets his rest. Women end up sacrificing their own needs for peace, the same peace they never get to enjoy. This myth creates an exhausting cycle where the person asking for emotional support is labeled as dramatic, when in reality, they're simply voicing what everyone needs: validation, understanding, and respect. But when a woman is constantly told to calm down or stop making drama, she learns to bottle up her feelings, to push down her needs for the sake of keeping the peace, even if it means silently drowning inside. What this myth ignores is that peace isn't about silence, it's about balance. And when you've been working hard to keep things running and your emotional needs aren't recognized, the peace becomes an illusion, one that leaves you isolated and emotionally drained. Men need more sex. Give it to us or we'll look elsewhere. This isn't a need, it's a threat disguised as biology. Women are constantly told that men have stronger sexual urges, so if you're not giving it up, you're pushing him into the arms of another woman or onto porn. This myth reduces sex to a transaction and turns women into gatekeepers of male self-control. It erases intimacy, connection, and mutual desire and replaces it with pressure, fear, and obligation. It teaches women that his needs always come first. Even if you're exhausted, resentful, or emotionally neglected, you're not a service. You're not responsible for keeping him loyal with your body. Sex isn't a duty, and no healthy relationship is built on ultimatums dressed as hormones. Feminism is just a war on men's freedom. This isn't a critique, it's a defense mechanism. When a man says feminism is attacking his freedom, what he often means is, I'm no longer the center of the universe and I don't like it. Feminism doesn't threaten freedom. It threatens unchecked entitlement. It challenges the systems that made women serve quietly, love unconditionally, and sacrifice endlessly, while men got to call that normal. What's actually being lost here isn't freedom, it's privilege. The privilege to ignore emotional labor, to dismiss female voices, to cheat and call it instinct, to stay emotionally unavailable and still expect devotion. Feminism isn't a war on men, it's a boundary. And the only men who feel attacked by boundaries are the ones who benefited from women not having any. There's logic, and then there's female logic. This phrase gets thrown around like a joke, but it's not funny, it's a weapon. A quick, smug way to shut down a woman's perspective by painting it as emotional, irrational, or just plain silly. It's not about logic, it's about control. Let's call it what it is, a strategy to avoid accountability. When a woman expresses something real, a boundary, a concern, a gut feeling, and it doesn't fit his version of reality, suddenly it's female logic. The subtext, you're being ridiculous, and I don't have to take you seriously. But here's the truth. Women's logic is often based on emotional nuance, pattern recognition, lived experience, and intuition. All things that don't show up on a spreadsheet but carry deep wisdom. We're not illogical, we're multidimensional, and for too long women have been trained to doubt that, to shrink our insight, to silence our knowing. When men laugh at female logic, what they're really doing is protecting a system where only their perspective is allowed to make sense. And when you hear it enough times, you start to second guess yourself, even when you're right. So no, there's no such thing as female logic. There's just logic they don't want to acknowledge, because if they did, they'd have to look in the mirror and actually listen to you. If I hadn't chosen you, you'd be a lonely woman with a cat. Ah yes, the ultimate backhanded compliment, the myth that your relationship is a favor, and without it, you'd be some desperate, cat-hoarding cliché. It's not love, it's a warning wrapped in mockery. Be grateful I picked you, because no one else would. This narrative is designed to chip away at your self-worth, to make you believe your value depends on being chosen, not being whole. It says your independence is tragic, your standards are unrealistic, and your life without him, a cautionary tale. But here's the twist. It's not actually about cats. It's about control. Because the more afraid you are of being alone, the easier you are to manage. The less likely you are to demand more, walk away, or remember your own power. And let's be real, being an independent woman with a cat sounds a hell of a lot more peaceful than being trapped in a relationship built on condescension. Quiet mornings, no emotional neglect, a purring sidekick who doesn't gaslight you. Honestly, not that bad. So, if the best he can offer is fear and superiority, let him keep his ego. You've got freedom, and maybe a cat, or two. If you're so feminist, let's split everything 50-50. This one always shows up like it's checkmate, as if asking for equality means surrendering every ounce of care, softness, and support. But here's what that line really says. If you want rights, prepare to be punished for them. Because this isn't about fairness, it's about weaponizing equality to shut women up. It's thrown out when she asks for emotional effort, help with the kids, or basic respect, and suddenly he's doing mental math about who paid for dinner. It ignores the invisible labor women do daily, the emotional support, the social scheduling, the remembering of birthdays, the quiet regulation of conflict, the caretaking, the constant awareness of everyone else's needs. That's not 50-50, that's overdraft. Feminism doesn't mean you carry your own weight in his pride. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to be tired, or held, or helped. It means you get to be human, not a martyr, not a maid, not a lesson in humility. So if he only believes in equality when it benefits him, it's not equality, it's manipulation. And no, you don't have to split hairs over dinner receipts to earn your right to boundaries, voice, or dignity. You're overthinking. It's not that deep. This one cuts in the most subtle way. It sounds calm, even reasonable, but it's one of the most effective ways to shut a woman down. You're overthinking. Translation: your feelings make me uncomfortable, so I'll label them as irrational. It's not that deep. Translation: I don't want to engage, so I'll minimize your reality until you start doubting it too. This phrase doesn't soothe, it erases. It makes women question their intuition, their perception, and their right to name what feels off. It teaches us to shrink our truth into something less inconvenient, less emotional, less worthy of attention. But here's what they don't realize. Women feel deeply because we see deeply. We notice what's unspoken. We track patterns, energy, tone shifts. We know when something's wrong, even when no one's saying it out loud. So no, you're not overthinking. You're perceiving. And it is that deep. It's always been that deep. They've just never had to sit in that depth before. Oh, come on, you're not going anywhere. It's forever, babe. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? You're not going anywhere. Like a promise, like commitment, like love. But look closer. It's not a vow. It's a cage with lipstick on it. Because when forever is said to silence your hurt, ignore your boundaries, or bypass accountability, it stops being comforting and starts being controlling. It's not forever because he's showing up for you. It's forever because he's confident you won't leave. No matter how unseen, unheard, or unloved you feel. This myth keeps women in relationships long after their needs have been buried. It makes you question whether your desire for change, growth, or peace is selfish. Because hey, he said he loves you, right? But real love doesn't trap you with permanence. It earns you with presence. So no, forever isn't a get-out-of-growth-free card, and it's not romantic to be held by fear instead of choice. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to walk away, and if forever means abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable, it was never love to begin with. They call them jokes, instincts, truths passed down from man to man. These myths are anything but harmless. They are quiet scripts, shaping what women are allowed to feel, ask for, become. And when you internalize them, when you shrink, soften, apologize just to keep the peace, the system wins. Not because it's right, but because it's comfortable. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone smallness. You don't exist to make someone else feel bigger by being less. Start unlearning. Start noticing. Start refusing. Because the moment you stop bending to stay lovable is the moment you become undeniably powerful. And that's where your freedom begins. No sophisticated call for action. Subscribe if that speaks to you, sis.